Welcoming on to the VikesVerified podcast today, we have St. John's wide receiver and NFL draft prospect, Wheeler. Dylan, how are you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely, man. We're looking forward to hearing more about your journey. Obviously, a great junior and senior season for you at St. John's. I want to talk a little bit about the end of the season until now. What's that look like for you? We saw you were at the University of Minnesota Pro Day. Just give me a little rundown of what that preparation has looked like and kind of the feel, performing on that big stage at the U of M.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pretty crazy ride the last few months since the end of the season. I spent about 10 weeks down in Mississippi training at a place called Siege Performance with about 15 other guys, all in a pretty similar spot. So I was thankful to my agent for sending me down there. I was down there from, basically the start of January until the week of my pro day at the University of Minnesota. So that was a great way to kind of get ready for that. And it was a good kind of first exposure to kind of D1 level talent and NFL talent that I hadn't necessarily seen at the D3 level. So again, that was a great time. Now since the pro day, it's really just been shifting the focus back towards football skills and trying to get ready for a mini camp. And so a little bit more running routes and kind of field work rather than mostly just 40 training that we did in the combine prep. So it's been a great experience so far, and I've loved every second of it, and just trying to get better every day.
I love that. I mean, these are the type of things you don't take for granted, right? I mean, we saw you at the pro day, obviously checked some nice boxes there. I think you solved a lot of questions that people had out of the gate. There was kind of a picture that got some exposure of you chatting it up with Kevin O'Connell. Do you have any insight on what that conversation was like? What did Kevin say to you?
Yeah, I mean he's a really nice guy. I was my first time meeting him. I just kind of saw him, and my coach had told me to make sure to thank everyone that was there, and so saw him and decided, well, I better thank the coach for coming, I guess. And so yeah, I kind of just decided to go introduce myself and thank him for coming. Again, he's a really nice guy, just really down to earth. I was able to ask him a little bit about just kind of getting ready for a mini camp, and again, that was a few weeks ago. And so he kind of just gave me the advice of trying to get in that game shape or practice shape where you can go a few days in a row, catching a lot of balls, running a lot of routes multiple days in a row, kind of getting your body ready for that. And so that's been an area of emphasis for sure, making sure I'm ready for any opportunity. But yeah, KOC is an awesome guy. He was, really nice, kind of just let me pick his brain a little bit. He was talking with Brosmer at the time, so I got to meet him as well. So I was thankful that they were there and thankful that they, took the time to talk to me.
Yeah, such a unique experience for you to be able to perform at a pro day like that and get in front of a lot of valuable coaches and scouts. Kind of sticking on that pro day. What was the feedback that you received from those scouts? And have you had a chance to talk to multiple NFL teams? And what has that kind of been like going through that process?
Yeah, it's definitely been, a little bit of a crazy process just from being at the D3 level. I mean, obviously, getting an opportunity like this was always my goal. I had some guys that came before me that were in a real kind of a similar spot where we had scouts coming in throughout the season, meeting with them, meeting with our coaches, and so I had a similar process throughout the fall where we had just over half the league come in, meet with coaches. I got to talk to a lot of scouts then, so that was a nice way to kind of ease into the whole process. And then since then, it's just been kind of you know taking any meetings with scouts that I can, trying to gauge as much interest as possible. It sounds like we're just pretty much hopeful for a rookie minicamp invite at this point. Um, that's kind of what we're looking for, and so it's just been a great experience getting to talk to the scouts. I know it's an opportunity that most people dream of and don't get to do, and so I just feel grateful for the interest that they've shown. But also it's been the goal since I really got to St. John's, and so it just feels good to kind of be at this point.
Yeah, I think your situation reminds me of a guy in Ben Barch a few years ago that was, able to be a draft pick, kind of go through similar processes. What's that been like with the alumni there? You've mentioned some other guys that scouts are coming to see. How has it been being able to kind of see a guy like Barch play at a school that you're at and then get to the next level? Have you had a chance to keep up with him? And how's that alumni part been with guys who have had a chance to kind of get the next step?
Yeah, I think the alumni side of things is something that St. John's University is really known for is the support in our alumni community. I think it kind of goes beyond just football. It's a huge part of people when they're looking for jobs and moving jobs or kind of looking for any sort of opportunities. So that side of things have been great. As far as Barch goes, I mean, he's really a legend around here. I mean, he obviously
Yeah.
like a fourth round draft picks, a guy that came in as a tight end and changed the line, and then he's at the combine and had his cool interview at the combine where he's making his smoothie,
Yeah.
and everyone's
Yeah.
heard those stories. So Barch is a legend. I think if I could have any sort of career path that he had, it'll be just an incredible blessing. So, but yeah, I know everyone's rooting for me from St. John's, and I think I just couldn't be more grateful for the support that I've had from my coaches and guys that I played with a few years ago where, when I came in as a freshman, I just didn't really know what I was doing at all. They really took me under their wings. And so I just feel I've had an incredible amount of support from alumni, guys I played with in the past, my coaches. And so really owe it all to them.
I love that. I mean, I looked at your stats, 40 TDs combined, junior and senior year. I mean, I had to blink twice when I saw that on the stat sheet. Was 21 TDs as a junior, 19 as a senior. Talk to me a little bit about what you believe makes you so successful in the red zone. Is it repertoire with the quarterback, attention to detail, ability to go up and get jump balls? What do you believe, helped you achieve a milestone like that in just 2 seasons?
Yeah, I think the at the very top, the credit definitely belongs to my coaches for things that they've taught me. Obviously they have to call the plays that put me in a position to score, and then I've had a privilege playing with some really really good quarterbacks since I've been here, and they have to make a great throw, they have to make the right decision in that time. Obviously, the O line has to protect in the red zone as well, and we might get more pressure, more man, and stuff like that. So a lot of it comes down to the things that are outside of my control, and a lot of stuff just happened to go my way over the last couple of years. And I know that scoring touchdowns is fun, and my name shows up on the stat sheet, but so much of it came from other guys. I think the biggest thing that I can control on that side is definitely an attention to detail where you kind of have to know exactly how we're going to run each route or what position I want to be in with the quarterback. And then that connection that I was able to build with our quarterbacks for the last 2 years, that was just a major time commitment for both of us. And like I said, I'm lucky to play with such great quarterbacks that are willing to do that. I do think a little bit of it comes down to, having a basketball background. Whenever I played kind of backyard football growing up, it just kind of felt natural to, go up and catch the ball or things like that. I think maybe part of it comes from rebounding or just the hand-eye coordination you develop playing basketball. So definitely a combination of things. Scoring touchdowns is really fun, but the credit really belongs to everyone else that made it possible. And I'm just one of the 11 guys out there that happens to end up with the ball.
I mean, Nick mentions the stats. It's truly impressive what you're able to put up over those past 2 seasons, racking up receptions and touchdowns. As a wide receiver, Dylan, what do you think is your favorite route to run and why?
Yeah, I think it's hard to pick one. I I'd probably just say a go ball, just a fade. To be honest with you, I think it's really fun. Just a lot of times it's gonna be man on man or just one on one, mano a mano, whatever you want to say. And it's just so much fun having an opportunity, kind of knowing the ball's coming, seeing it up in the air. Everything kind of slows down in that moment where you're either adjusting, you're opening up your hip for a back shoulder ball, or you're just kind of by the guy and get to catch him over the shoulder. So that's probably my favorite. I also, running slants is always fun just because there's so many different ways to run it, whether you're getting press coverage or the guy's off of you. If you have time to give him a little move at the top, working with tempo, things like that. It's kind of an art form. And then running just normal curls I really enjoy because of the progress I feel like I've made over the last few years, where getting in and out of a break in 3 steps and coming back to the quarterback with some tempo. Um, that's just something that I'm probably most proud of through my development. So those 3 routes are probably my favorite. Fade ball probably being the overall
Love
favorite.
that. So, looking at the next opportunity, we're talking mini camp, right? You're going to be seeing probably more press coverage than you've seen with bigger, stronger corners, guys with more refined technique. It's going to be a step up in competition. You know that. Who are you kind of listening to in terms of what parts of your game that you need to polish up a little bit before this point? And like, give me 2 or 3 points of emphasis that you think, are going to help you stand out and stick around for longer than just the rookie mini camp.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. So my agent's been able to hear a little bit of feedback from scouts. A lot of it comes down to just improving overall athleticism and also sharpening up, certain parts of the route running. I'm really lucky to have a coach, a wide receiver coach and OC at St. John's who played in the NFL for a few years. He was a Cole Hackenorf, record-breaking wide receiver at NDSU. And so I've been able to kind of pick his brain over the last 4 years, and pretty much everything I know has come from him. The biggest thing that we're working on at this point is really just creating separation, and that comes from, in my situation, a lot of it's going to come from speed of getting in and out of breaks. I might not be able to run by a corner that runs a 4-3, but if I can stop and come back to the ball faster than he can stop, then I'll be open. So definitely creating separation is a huge area of emphasis for me right now. Continue to get more athletic, continue to get faster, is another thing that I think is going to help separate me down the line. So I'd say those are probably the two biggest areas of emphasis. And then I'm always catching balls. I always want to get better at catching the football. Uh, so I think you can always get better at that. So those are the kind of where I'm working most right now.
The way you play your game, who are some guys that you maybe emulate your game after or maybe admired growing up?
Yeah, I think I've always approached kind of styling my game after guys a little bit, maybe a little bit unorthodox. I always try to look at guys that I don't play like and then try and take things from them so I
Yeah.
can, expand my game. And so, looking at a guy like Justin Jefferson, who is just unbelievably shifty, bends around turns, and just guy that can stop and turn on a dime and really shake people. That's not necessarily always been my game, but I always love watching him. Something with a guy like Hunter Renfro, someone that can just carve people up. Obviously, growing up as a Vikings fan, I've always been a huge fan of Thielen, a huge fan of Diggs. So loved watching those guys growing up. I like watching Devontae Adams as well. Just, I mean, if there's like any great receiver, you can always take stuff from him. I love watching him. Like guys like AJ Brown as well. Love watching him. And then at the college level, like I've always been a big fan of Ryan Williams. I know maybe didn't have necessarily the greatest year last year, but watching him is something I enjoy as well. Even if he's like 2 years younger than me, which is kind of funny. But, I think you could take something from anybody's game. The biggest thing for me has always been trying to develop skills that are that are different than me have, and then trying to just really add that into the bag.
For sure, and I think that's a fun part about playing receivers. It's like you're never fully crafted. It's the type of position that has so many different intricacies. You can pull so many different things from different players. So yeah, I think that's a great way to go about it. Is pick up on some things that I haven't done in my past. Maybe we can add that to my bag in the future. I want to talk. You touched about the basketball in high school. You had multiple offers coming out of Mounds View High School. It could have been a basketball player, multi-sport athlete. I've been very passionate about this in years past, and youth sports has become such a pool of single sport specialization. And I would just want to ask you, what endorsement do you have for kids to play multiple sports in high school? How important is it to get those different experiences, train those different muscles in your body? I mean, I think it's an important thing. And, coming from a multi sport player like you, what do you have to say about being a multi sport athlete?
Yeah, I think, I have probably have a pretty unique look on it just because I really played, every sport possible growing up. And then by the time I was, coming out of middle school, I was just football, basketball, baseball. You put the baseball stuff in the basement during the winter, and then you're all basketball, and then the fall you're just throwing the football around. But I decided to specialize in basketball. Going into my eighth or the summer after my seventh grade year, I was recruited to play for an AAU team that spring. So I was traveling all over the Midwest and all over the country, really playing AAU basketball tournaments as a 14-year-old, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
So I didn't end up playing any other sports until my senior year of high school. And I do feel like in a way I missed out on some major development as an athlete from, not playing baseball or not playing football or not running track. But I just think it's a really tough call for kids nowadays when
For
if you want to
sure.
get, if you're trying to get a scholarship offer in basketball, you kind of have to be there as a junior. And so that development's pretty important. I think football is probably the sport where it doesn't matter too much about specialization because in high school, I think if you're a great athlete in high school football, you're going to dominate no matter what, and then you
Yeah.
can develop a lot more uh, in throughout college. for me, I'd say having the opportunity to come back at Mounds View as a senior and play football in the fall, play basketball in the winter, run track that spring. I mean, that was the most fun I've ever had playing sports. Just guys I grew up with, great coaches, people that I think my coaches at Mounds View in football, they allowed me to have such a growth mindset, allowed me to make mistakes and figure things out as I went. And they didn't really try to teach me too much. It was more kind of let me figure things out, play to the boundary a lot, just a few routes that they helped me work on. And anytime it was man to man, they were like, all right, we're gonna give him a shot. So
Yeah.
that development that they provided me with was huge. So yeah, I think it's a really tough decision right now on specialization for kids. I do think waiting as long as possible is probably the best thing to do, is what I would say.
Love that. Thank you.
Dylan, for whatever fan base does get the opportunity to kind of see you get a chance to suit it up and go play, who are they getting in Dylan Wheeler?
Yeah, I think gosh, well, I sure wish I knew who I was. I got a long way to go. I think the thing that I just feel like I have so much more improvement to make in football as a person in general. I think my time at St. John's, I've grown a lot over the last 4 years. As a D3 guy, I was exposed to, I was a accounting and finance double major. I studied abroad in London for 4 months. I've had 5 internships throughout my time in college, and I think that's an experience that a lot of people at a D1 level don't necessarily get. And, maybe that prevented me from becoming a draft pick, but I think the personal development, the overall, human development that I've had here has just been really beneficial to me. And so moving forward, having the opportunity to focus on one thing and focus on everything on football, something I'm really excited for. I feel like I have a lot of room to grow, and that's really all I care about is getting better and learning. And I know there's, a little bit less room for error in the NFL where you make a mistake, that might be it. But, I'm up for the challenge and I'm okay with that pressure. I really embrace it. So any fan base that I get to go play for is just getting someone that's trying to get better every single day.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, it's great spot to be, great mindset to have. A lot of growth ahead of you. Would you be open to opportunities in, say, the CFL, say it was overseas? Is this a game that that you want to keep playing for years to come? Or is it the type of thing that, you would tap into, like you said, the education that you've got, double major, accounting and finance? How far do you want to go with the game of football?
Yeah, I think, I'm really open to any opportunity that comes up over the next couple of years. I think obviously you never really know what's going to happen in life or where life's going to take you, but I love the game of football. I love getting better, and I think as long as I kind of see that opportunity to keep getting better and keep kind of moving up, I'd be open to anything. So, thanks.
Perfect. Yeah, so I noticed in your bio, your cause, you've got Folds of Honor in there. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about that. Do you have military connections in your family? Just give me a little background as to your partnership or the work you do with Folds of Honor.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Folds of Honor is a nonprofit organization that provides educational scholarships to the children and spouses of America's fallen or disabled military members and first responders. And so, in my experience at St. John's, obviously I had a couple basketball scholarships that I turned down, and St. John's is not a free school, and so I was given support from my family to go to college. I don't actually have any immediate family members serving in the military, but I've always admired them. Just, I felt like guys in the military, men or women in the military, had some guts that I just didn't have, and I have so much respect for them for serving their country. So I found out about Folds a couple years ago from my brother. His company does a fundraiser for them, and he's wearing a hat, and I thought it looked cool, so I asked him about it, and that's where the connection started. And so I was looking for a way to try to support the cause. I have such a good platform here at St. John's, and my junior season, I organized a fundraiser where I brought together about 30 donors, and they were able to choose a statistic of their choice to make a donation based off. And so some people did, maybe a dollar a catch, or maybe $5 a touchdown, or maybe, 50 cents a yard. And over the course of like 30 donors, and, the year before I had, maybe like 700 yards or so and 50 catches. So there wasn't the expectation that I was gonna have 21 touchdowns,
Yeah,
and we
you're
ended up
dipping in their
yeah,
pockets a little bit more,
exactly.
huh?
Yeah, so we ended up doing 25 grand, uh, my junior season, and I was just blown away by the support from some of the alumni at St. John's. They got really excited about it. I mean, they were coming up with donation metrics that I hadn't even thought of, with playoff games and All-American bonuses. And the most important thing is that I had never touched any of the money. I had no affiliation with it whatsoever. I wasn't paid for my performance at all. They're donated straight to Folds of Honor. Um, so then I came back my senior season and worked on expanding a little bit with a few other guys on my team. Our tight end, Joey Gendro, did a fundraiser. One of my roommates, Andrew Mullen, our linebacker, he did a fundraiser. And so we ended up doing, about $25,000 again, but it was more spread out from a few different guys. So that was my kind of interactions with it at St. John's. And right now I'm working on kind of bringing in some of the underclassmen to take the reins with it. Hopefully, hoping to see that it continues at St. John's. My brother and I just joined the Young Professionals Board for the Folds of Honor Minnesota chapter. There's about 30 chapters across the United States now, and most of them have that Young Professionals chapter where it's guys in their 20s and early 30s just trying to stay involved. We do a few events every year, try and kind of bridge that gap where maybe someone that's in their 50s or 60s is in the spot to donate to charities, but that doesn't mean someone in their 20s or 30s can't give a little bit or can't just volunteer their time. So that's kind of the biggest thing now as I lose, not necessarily lose, but as I move on from my platform at St. John's, staying involved however I can. Something that I would love to do. I know I forgot who it was, but someone did a My Cause, My Cleats in the NFL with
Yeah.
Folds of Honor as their cause. So I'm excited to stay involved however I can. I would love to, expand it to other athletes across the United States at other levels. I think there's a window there with where NIL is going right now. I think, someone making 100 grand a year might benefit, by having some sort of fundraiser type, kind of along with that. So yeah, it's been such a privilege to support Folds of Honor. The support I've been given has been unbelievable. I really don't feel like I deserve to raise any of that money or anything like that, but it's been cool seeing people get excited about it, and I sure have enjoyed it.
What a great cause and what a cool way to make some money for it, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
thanks.
as a high earner, as an accounting guy, there may be some tax advantages for those high
Yeah,
earners to, pump that into the fund.
absolutely.
So I love that.
Yep,
Anytime you can connect the dots with a cause like that and tie it to on-field performance, that's a really cool thing. So
yep.
we're glad to hear that, and it's a great cause to support. So very cool.
Thank you.
Um, you got anything else, Matt, before we wrap it up here?
No, I think we covered, the bases there. It was a pleasure getting to know more about you, Dylan, and kind of learn your journey as you kind of go through the process now of talking to scouts, going through pro days and all that fun stuff. So, was a pleasure having you on. Appreciate the time. And I know we're both excited to kind of watch you go through these next couple weeks.
For sure. This is the Vikes Verified podcast. Dylan Wheeler, St. John's wide receiver. Looking forward to your opportunities, Dylan. We really appreciate the time tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. It's been great getting to know you guys, and I really appreciate the time and your support.
Hey, who knows? Maybe we end up in purple and gold. We get an opportunity here in the Twin Cities, and we can build on that relationship with Kevin O'Connell.
Absolutely. That's the plan.
Yeah.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
All right, awesome.